But I also come with a different set of eyesights, too, is that when you're at the dance, it always takes two parties to dance. And that there's problems not just from the private sector in wrongdoing, but also from government. And that's why I come with a different eyesight. I'm also from Arizona, so just to give you some perspective. So the way I look at things and the way I've seen things is that legislation, when it comes into new existence, isn't always perfect. And so what we're straining here with, and me as one of them, is was that legislation crafted right? Did it have the proper checks and balances? And I think, I hope, and I extend, that's what the tenor is there, is that question. And when you don't get an answer to a question, it just creates more questions. I hope you understand, okay? So with that being said, I heard you talk to Mr. Gowdy that no product should be banned, okay? I thought I heard that you didn't say any product should be banned.
No, Congressman, I hope what I said is that I've been in hearings before. The president of the American Bankers Association has been asked, are there products that should be banned? He said yes. I said, I think the way we should go is I think we should start with much clearer disclosure. I don't think it's appropriate to take any tool off the table.
Oh, well, then
depends on what happens.
I love where you're going with this, because what I'd love to do is I'd like to see us kind of work in. This is a new agency. It's got some breadth of powers. So with that being said, I mean, so would you endorse repealing the specific power of Dodd-Frank to that degree, that you could not ban any specific item?
No, Congressman.
You wouldn't repeal it?
No.
So the language of that power of that law is perfect?
Congressman, I wouldn't repeal giving the agency the powers that Dodd-Frank has given it. You know, I think what we ought to do is we ought to get out there and get started on behalf of the American people.
But I'm a businessman too, and the last job numbers I saw are just plummeting. And part of that is the uncertainty we're creating in here. And to have one individual truly heading an agency dictating that there won't be a product creates some uncertainty into the markets. And so you can understand where me as a businessman don't like that, right?
Actually, I do have a little problem with why you wouldn't like that, because where we're starting, and we've made clear, our initial regulatory actions with the help of the consumer, with the community banks, is that we're actually going to change the law in a way that reduces the regulatory burden for these community banks, and at the same time increases the ability of customers to read and understand a mortgage. You've seen that stack.
Well, I love where you're going here, and sorry again, I'm going to interrupt. I'm not being rude, but I got so little time here, okay? I also told you I'm from Arizona, and Ms. Burkle talked to you, and you gave her some answers that you've had an outreach and a lot of support from a lot of different perspectives, big banks, community banks. Can you specifically tell me which banks those are, the community banks?
Sure.
And on what product are you
Roger Beveridge at the Oklahoma Bankers Association. I met with Roger and probably 25 bankers on the very first day I was in office. They were here visiting from Oklahoma.
And you have letters of support from all of those?
Well, I've got Roger's their leader. I don't know how every single one of them feels. But
how about, can I ask you a question? I know we talked about the housing market, and could you agree that Arizona is one of the epicenters for a problem with mortgages and home crisis? Would you say?
There are some terrible problems on mortgage foreclosures in Arizona.
Can you give me some examples of some groups that you've reached out into Arizona? Because it seems to me if we've got a problem of magnitude like this, that you'd reach out and have some support in Arizona. Could you tell me specifically? And throw a couple community banks in if you could.
Congressman, I've talked with community bankers in all 50 states, including community bankers in Arizona, but I'm afraid I'm not good enough to remember.
I'd love to know who they are.
Everyone.
And why I ask is that we've had to have outreach. I'm from one of the poorest districts in the country. I have lots of Native Americans, I have a lot of veterans, I have a lot of senior citizens, a lot of folks that this agency is really easy in my district because there are no choices. You cannot refinance your house. Right now, most of the people are not paying their mortgages, and the banks aren't even putting it on their lists because they can't take it as another hit. And I'm not finding, from my standpoint in District 1, any banks that have been contacted in my district from you. And I'd love to know who they are, that we would find out and get a list from you if we could. Thank you.
The